The Tom Woods Show, episode 1155.
Prepare to set fire to the index card of allowable opinion. Your daily dose of liberty education starts here. The Tom Woods Show.
Folks, Harry's Razors give you a close, comfortable shave without breaking the bank. And Harry's wants to give you their trial set, valued at $13. Grab it at harrys.com/woods. That's harrys.com/woods. Hi everybody, Tom Woods here. Yesterday I promised you a good news episode, and man, is this ever a good news episode. I am so glad to be joined once again by Gret Glyer, the creator of the Bureaucracy app, DONORSEE. I'm going to let him describe to you what it is. Many of you already have it and have been using it. It's a tremendous tool, and it's fantastic for transparency when it comes to doing good work around the world and helping people. And it has super low overhead. It's everything you would want when it comes to small-scale philanthropy, basically, is what's happening via the app. And you can have direct access to what's going on. You can see with your own eyes through video and photographs what actually is happening thanks to your donation. And I'm particularly glad to be having this conversation today because, my gosh, the headlines have been really, really discouraging. So it's really great to be reminded once in a while that there are good things in the world. There's goodness in the world. Not everything is politics. Outside the realm of politics, wonderful things can still be happening. And is this ever an example of that? And I am in the mood to make a challenge to some of my listeners of means, let's say, and let's see where that goes. But right now, let me bring Gret Glyer back on. Gret, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom.
I'd like you to take just a minute to remind people, or indeed to inform people who have not heard the earlier episodes with you, exactly what Bureaucracy is about.
Of course. So Bureaucracy is a platform that helps donors see where their money goes when they donate. So the example I like to give is, let's say there's a girl in India and she's deaf and she just needs hearing aids. Donors can go onto the Bureaucracy platform, the website or the app. They can find this girl and they can donate to her. And a few days later, they'll get a video of that girl hearing for the first time. And we do this with more than just hearing aids and so forth, but that's the example that kind of demonstrates really well what we do.
It's all kinds of projects, and it really is amazing. You get that semi-immediate feedback, or just to get any feedback at all, and have it be instant on your phone, a photo, a video, whatever, a text update.
It's usually a video just a couple days after you give, or a couple days after it's funded. And usually you give a very small amount, and it impacts someone in a really big way. And then you get that experience straight to your phone right after the video is taken on the other side of the world. So very cool.
Would you mind saying a brief word about the Tom Woods house from a couple years back?
Yes. Well, there's a couple different things I could mention there. The Tom Woods house specifically is that you and your family, you went through and you found some people who were of similar age to your kids, and you found people who needed shoes. I believe it was in Uganda. And so the Tom Woods household donated shoes to these people. And then on Christmas, you guys got videos of the kids receiving their shoes. And so all of your kids got to see the people that they helped with video on the other side of the world. And I believe they even said, "Thank you, Tom Woods," and all of that other stuff. So, but the other thing I should mention is that your community, a different type of Tom Woods household, your community has been very supportive as well. And I think the first time that I was on your show, we got just swarmed with donations. But one of the cool things that happened was your community found one specific lady who needed a house, and you built a house out in Malawi. It took a day to get the funding for that, and so a couple cool different things there. Yeah,
it's amazing. It was a grandmother who was a widow, and she was raising several children who were orphaned. Grandchildren who were orphaned, and one of whom was epileptic. I mean, it was just the most challenging situation you could imagine. And not only did we get a nice photo of the family holding up signs with every donor's name on them, all my listeners, their names with a thank you, but we also got a video of a walkthrough of the house.
Yeah.
It is an astonishing thing. And so I'm glad you remembered that thing about Christmas time, Christmas before last, because I wanted to do that because, as you say, I chose people who were of similar age to my kids so that they could identify with them on some level and for them to understand the depth of the need in so many places, but also to make it be a modest enough contribution that my kids could use their own money, and they'd be able to put it up and say, we made this little change in the world, but we did that from the other end of the globe, and you, Gret Glyer, made that possible. That's really an astonishing thing, and we've talked on this show in the past about the problems with some of the traditional organizations and the overhead and the lack of accountability and all that, and how you've been able to cut through that and keep overhead very low. And there's so much good stuff to be said about DonorSee, but I'd like to, and no doubt we'll have some time to talk further about that, but I'd like to talk about some changes that are coming and the crowdfunding campaign you have going.
Yeah.
Bring us up to date on DonorSee.
All right. So first, I'll tell you some of the things that have happened on the DonorSee platform up until this point, and then I'll tell you about a cool thing that we're doing going forward and that we launched just yesterday. So one of the big changes that we made was, for a long time, DonorSee was a platform where people could post projects of all sorts of different amounts. But what we decided to do a few months back is we capped all projects at $450. So from now on, any projects that you go to give to on DonorSee, the biggest that project could possibly be is $450. And the reason we did that was we looked at what are the different things that DonorSee is best at. Like, every organization has some kind of focus that really sets them apart, that makes them their organization, right? So there's charities out there who just focus on water projects. There are charities out there who just focus on medical surgeries. And we were kind of doing a whole bunch of different stuff, and we were looking at what is it the thing that we deliver best. And when we were looking at that, and when we were looking at how our users responded best and when they were engaging the most with our platform, we found out that that what DonorSee does better than anyone else, the thing that we do 10 times better than any other organization out there, is we do these really small personal projects really, really well. So we wanted to provide a platform that is the platform for small personal needs. So you go to DonorSee, you find these small projects, and there's no other place like it. And the reason that we capped it at 450 is so we're not getting distracted by other things. Like, we're good at building wells. We're good at we had an orphanage that we built on the platform. We're good at doing those things, but there are lots of other organizations that do that really well too. But the thing that we're best at are these small personal needs. And so we're the platform that does that. And that's a change that we made a few months ago, and we've been really pleased with the reaction and the results to that. So that's the...
Well, you know what? Maybe that's an interesting change. When I read that you were making that change, I wasn't entirely sure what was motivating it, but I get your reasoning. And I also think that maybe it works well given the nature of the app, that it is... The fact that I'm getting a video showing me specifically what my contribution did might be tricky if I'm donating $100 to a $10 million project. I mean, what did I do? Put in those 5 bricks? Yeah. How could you do that?
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, we tried doing different things. So, for example, when we were building this orphanage, people would give in different phases. So first they would lay the foundation for the orphanage, and then everyone who gave to that phase would get a big sign. But still, there were like 100 or 150 names on the sign. Same thing with these wells that we were building. And so it got to be not nearly as personal. And like I said, there's other people doing that out there, but there's no one doing what we're doing with these small personal needs. And so we're trying to be as focused as possible on this thing that this service and this way of giving that we really excel at.
We recently, I guess, had the 200th anniversary of the birth of Karl Marx, who was the opposite of what you're doing for many reasons, but one of them is there's no evidence he ever actually visited a factory and met anybody who met the characteristics he was describing or interacted with these people or on any level. And he and his followers spoke entirely in terms of generalities and classes and the people and these aggregates, these abstractions that never had personal faces on them. But everything DonorSee does has a personal face. This isn't some category. This isn't some mechanism in the process of historical development. This is a human being.
Yes.
And you're making a connection with another human being. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really, really what I wanted to do. And it really gets at the heart of why I started DonorSee in the first place, because I spent 3 years living in Malawi, Africa, which is it's always in the bottom 5 of the poorest countries on the planet. When I was there, 2 of the 3 years, it was the poorest country on the planet. And I spent 3 years like living with these extremely impoverished people, just like the widow that we mentioned earlier. And I so badly wanted to help people back here in America, back in the first world, for lack of a better term. I wanted to help them understand some of the ways that other people on the planet live, and not just some people. We're talking about half the planet. Like there's 3.5 billion people who live in similar situations to the widow that we mentioned earlier. And so I wanted a way to do that, and I've been trying really, really hard. And with DonorSee, we were at at 90%. We were really close, and then once we capped it, we found our sweet spot. And this is something. It's a pivot that I'm so excited about.
And by the way, what you're doing, if I may use a hackneyed phrase, brings people together. And
yes.
If I may just recall an incident, we won't mention any names, but let's just say, I'm probably not the most popular person over at National Review magazine, even though years and years ago I used to subscribe to it. But I'm different. I'm cut from a different cloth, and I'm not sure I'm their favorite person, or even if some of them even know me. But I have enough of an in with a few people that when DonorSee came out and you wanted to try and get as much publicity as possible, I wrote to somebody over there and said, look, this thing is extremely worthwhile. We can all agree on that. And doggone it if he didn't actually go ahead and write an article. And they've got, like them or not, they've got a gigantic audience.
Yes.
And so I don't think I would have been able to write to him and say, I had this guest on, I'd like you to promote him. In general, that is a non-starter, but who doesn't like DonorSee? So tell me about what you're doing now with crowdfunding for DonorSee. What kind of crowdfunding it is and what you're trying to accomplish with it.
All right. Well, I think it would be good if, as a preamble, we started off by explaining that DonorSee is structured as a for-profit. We're not actually a nonprofit. I started a nonprofit when I was in Malawi. It's called Homes, and people still donate to it. It's a way for people to build homes for orphans and widows. And it's a 501c3 nonprofit with tax deduction and all that stuff. And I learned a lot from starting that nonprofit, mainly that the benefits of starting a nonprofit are not. They don't warrant the cost of starting a nonprofit. So when I started DonorSee, I said I want to start an organization that's going to help people in the most effective way possible, and so having DonorSee be an LLC, we decided that would be a much better, more efficient way to funnel funds directly to people. So by not having it be a 501c3, we take out all of the paperwork, all of the organizational glut, and we create a situation that can actually be more transparent, that money can be funneled more directly. And because we're dealing in such small amounts, tax deduction is not a huge deal to our donors. And we are working on a way to get tax deduction at some point in the future. But that's an important thing to mention before I get into this new thing that we're doing. So DonorSee is structured as a for-profit and LLC, and our goal is to grow and to be a product that is in the hands of people all over the world, and we want to be a household name. And so in order to do that, we're actually raising a round of funding, but we're doing it in a maybe you could call it non-traditional or a new way. So there's a website called WeFunder, and WeFunder is kind of like Kickstarter, but for startups. So on Kickstarter, you would post a project and you give rewards in exchange for money. On WeFunder, you actually give equity in exchange for money. So someone would come to wefunder.com/DonorSee. They would invest a certain amount in DonorSee, and in exchange for that, they would get equity. And in the event of a liquidity event, like in case we IPO or in case DonorSee has an exit, an acquisition sometime in the next 3 to 7 years, the people who invested in DonorSee would actually financially benefit from that. And so that's the overarching new direction that we're taking, and something that I'm quite excited about. We just launched this yesterday, so it's fresh, but the excitement is definitely there.
Are you able to give out the link here?
Yes, wefunder.com/DonorSee is where we can do that, and I'm sure I can send that to you afterwards to put in the description.
Yeah, I've got it right here from your original email. I've never heard of wefunder.com. Mm-hmm. Is that new?
Yes. So here's the thing. Up until 2016, what we're doing with crowdfunding through these small amounts in exchange for equity, it was illegal. So we had to go through a whole bunch of paperwork just to get it published on this site so that people can give small amounts. But up until 2016, the only way to invest in a private company was you had to be what's called an accredited investor. Basically, you had to be a millionaire. Either you had to make $250,000 a year in income, or you had to have assets of $1 million excluding your house. Those were the rules. You could not invest in a private company unless you were an accredited investor. But the folks over at WeFunder, which is an organization I fully endorse for all sorts of reasons, they fought the government tooth and nail to create a situation where people who don't come from those types of means can invest in private companies. And so that's WeFunder is this brand new thing, but there's a handful of sites who are facilitating these transactions, but WeFunder is the biggest and the best.
All right, more with Gret Glyer after we thank our sponsor. All right, man, let's talk this through. What do we want in a razor? We want a close, comfortable shave, we want high-quality blades, and we don't want to break the bank. Well, that's been precisely my experience with Harry's razors. The founders of Harry's knew that the blade is the key to the razor, so they stripped away all the unnecessary features. I don't need an MP3 player built into my razor. I don't need it to be USB powered or whatever. I just want a good blade that gives me a good shave, and that's what Harry's gives you. That's why I gave Michael Malice, one of your favorite guests on the Tom Woods Show, a Harry's gift set for Christmas. Now look, Harry's stands behind the quality of their blades, but they know that switching razors isn't an easy decision, so they created a trial offer. Get this $13 value trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave: a weighted ergonomic handle, a 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, a rich lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. Listeners of my show can redeem their trial set at harrys.com/woods. Make sure you go to harrys.com/woods to redeem your offer and let them know I sent you to help support the show. All right, Gret, with this crowdfunding campaign, are there any minimums for donations?
Yeah, there's a small minimum, but so here's the funny thing that I think you'll find either amusing or tragic, depending on how you're feeling. But I'm actually not allowed to talk about the specifics of the deal because it's actually illegal. So all of the specifics are available at wefunder.com/donorcy. You can see all of our numbers. You can see all of the specifics of the deal, the legal paperwork, all that stuff. But but as far as any time I talk about it in some kind of other platform here or on social media, I'm not allowed to mention the specifics.
That's totally crazy. So we can all call this up. Okay, everybody who's listening in, get on your smartphone or on your computer, go to wefunder.com/donorsee, DONORSEE, and then you can look at it with us. But we can't. So you can't say anything. Can I say anything?
I can't talk about this.
Is it just specifics.
You? So that's something. Yeah, they told me I couldn't talk about it. Maybe you're in the position to do that.
But you know what? Let's not take any chances.
Okay. Yeah.
But if I invested something in this, would I be allowed to say that?
Yes, for sure.
Huh. All right, because I'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you thrown in jail.
You
could probably run. But beautiful thing about the internet, you could probably run DonorSee from jail. Well, if it came to that.
That's for sure. For a while I ran it from Malawi, so I think jail might be an even easier place to do it.
So are you living in the U.S. permanently at this point?
I have to, yeah. At this point, I would love to go back and live in Malawi, but because of the time difference and because of the inferior infrastructure in all sorts of different ways, I just have to live in the U.S. to do what we're doing over at DonorSee. So I like America, but Malawi is kind of this place that really has a place in my heart, you could say.
All right, here's what I'm going to do, okay, for people who want to make donations. Right now, because I have great supporters who support me, who make contributions to the show and all that, and they want me to do good things with it. So I think this is a worthy cause. So I'll put up $1,000, and I'm going to put out a challenge to my folks. I know listening here, there are some of you who are folks of means who can match me on this. So what I can do, I'm trying to think of things that I could do that would be adding value, but for the next 50 people who match me, each of you donating $1,000, I'll give you, I have a $497 product, which is lifetime membership at Liberty Classroom. I'll throw that in as a bonus and a thank you for people doing this. Okay, if that helps to get you off the fence, then that you're getting like a $500 bonus from me, then that is worth it because this is a really, really good cause. So what you would want to do is make the donation at wefunder.com/donorsee and then forward the receipt to me at bonuses@tomwoods.com. And if you're one of the first 50, I'll get you that thing as a gift. And if not, I'll at least give you a coupon for it. At least you'll get something out of this thing. So there you go.
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. That means quite a bit. And the support from you and from your community has been unquestioned. Like it's something that has impressed me even to this day, because almost every week I get a email from one of your listeners saying, "Hey, I listened to you all these months ago, and I'm just checking out DonorSee for the first time, and you've really built something cool." Or that National Review article that you referenced earlier, which was something that you facilitated. That's another thing that I get emails pretty regularly about. So I can't thank you enough.
Well, that's really great, especially because it's been so long since you were on. This thing has legs.
Quite a bit, yeah. And I think it's helped because you've had me on a few other times after that. And your community, they have invited me onto their podcast and they talk about me and they follow me on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. So I think it's a number of different things, but yeah, it really does have legs.
All right. So tell me about some other interesting projects that have been funded recently on DonorSee.
I'll tell you about, so the thing that I love about DonorSee is it's personal in two ways. One of the ways it's personal is you're giving to a person who is in need, and you can see that person, you can know their story, know their name, and you can see how you help them. The other way it's personal is the money is funneled through these aid workers who are on the ground helping these people. So there are a bunch of people that you can follow on DonorSee, people like Amy Hathaway, Georgina, Kristen, Todd. There's a whole bunch of them. You go to the DonorSee.com website and you can just see the people's name who are posting these projects. So I'll tell you one of my favorite people who's posting projects on DonorSee. Her name is Amy Hathaway. She lives in Tanzania and she's doing some of the most incredible work. So she works with babies who are on the verge of starvation. A lot of times, sadly, in these countries that are really underdeveloped, a birth mother dies in childbirth. And in fact, it's way more common than you would think. In third world countries, 1 in 31 women die in childbirth. So it's really, really tragic. So there's a lot of these babies who are either abandoned at birth or their parents pass away when they're born. And so there's these babies who are on the brink of starvation. So what she does is she posts projects to provide formula milk for these babies. And so over the course of about 3 months, you provide $200 worth of formula milk for the babies, and they go from being emaciated, where you can see their ribs, to like this full, healthy, robust baby. But she doesn't just stop there. See, you can't. That's a what's called a non-sustainable solution. So you can't just give formula milk to a baby and then save its life and then you have a baby. What are you going to do? Like that kid still has to grow up. It has to get an education. There has to be some kind of mechanism to provide for that kid as it gets older. And so she saves the baby's life with formula milk, and then the second stage is she finds a caretaker for the baby. Usually it's like an aunt or someone related to the baby, and she sets that aunt up with a business. So you can go to Amy's projects and you can find one of these aunts who's maybe needs a sewing machine or something like that, and she sets the aunt up with a business, and so the aunt has a sustainable income on a monthly basis and is able to take that baby whose life was saved and raise it for the rest of its life. And so Amy Hathaway is one of several people on our platform who are just doing the most incredible work you can possibly think of. And they're all on the other side of the world, so no one talks about them or hears about them, but they're really just like saving people's lives. And I get so excited thinking about all of the good that's happening from these people.
Gret, one more thing. I happen to know that you don't take a salary for DonorSee, which is, I think, an interesting thing for investors to know. But then that does raise the question, how do you support yourself?
Yeah, well, so I'm the only person at DonorSee who is not paid for my work. So everyone else, all of our developers, if we have someone who helps out with marketing or someone who just helps out with an hourly job, they're all paid. I'm the only one who's not paid. And I think a big part of that comes from, I lived in Malawi for 3 years. I'm used to living on a little bit less than the average person my age. But I support myself mainly through Patreon. So people who support me and believe in the work that I'm doing, they can go to patreon.com/GretGleier, and they can support my monthly expenses that way. And I also have a few things I do on the side, consulting and things like that bring in income. But the more that I can get Patreon support, the more I'm able to focus entirely on DonorSee, which is what I want to do. And the reason I choose not to take a salary from DonorSee is because I understand the dynamic of how it kind of looks having a for-profit charity. So not everyone is going to listen to a half-hour long podcast and understand like how much I truly care about this cause. Some people, they might just see something that, they might just see CEO of for-profit charities trying to raise investment round or something like that. And they'll just look at the headline and they'll make a decision based on the headline. And so I wanted to take that off take that possibility off the table and be above reproach, so to speak.
Well, fair enough. Well, this is a great thing. I'm glad to hear of the continuing growth and development of DonorSee. And after I showed it to my 8-year-old today, she actually remembered it from
Oh, cool.
I guess a year and a half ago, which is
yeah, something like
Christmases
that.
ago. When we made that in fact, that was a night where I was just going nuts. We were just donating left and right, and I finally said, "All right, why don't you kids pitch in something?" But she remembered it, and so she said, "Well, can we give something?" And I said, "Well, let me go up and talk to Gret, and then when we finish later in the day, we'll sit down together and see what we find interesting and compelling, and we'll make another donation." So it's fun. It can be addicting, DonorSee, but there are a lot worse things to be addicted to than helping people.
Yeah, that's the funny thing that I hear about it is it's the one app where people feel like they open and they like can't help but spend money on it. So, but it's a good way to spend money if you're gonna be impulsive in one way. DonorSee is a good excuse to do that. That's right.
And of course, you can always just look through and you can always say to a friend, "Look, I know you're interested in such and such thing. Well, this person has that exact need, and you could meet that need in 3 seconds."
Yes.
Anyway, sometimes we get discouraged, especially with this show. And I was looking at my email newsletter list the other day and the subject lines, and oh my gosh, I mean, it's just. But the problem is, if I send out like a happy email subject line, people don't open it for some reason. I don't know what's wrong. What is the matter with you people?
No, I mean, I operate the same way. There's something that's like deep down within us that just wants to see the controversy. I don't quite know what that is.
Yeah. But all the same, I do want to point out that this app that you've designed, which people can access on a desktop or laptop computer, as well as via a smartphone, is a light in the darkness, really. And it shows us that there is some good that can come out of all this. In fact, it's the sort of thing, you're too young to know who Roger Waters is, but he was the bass player for Pink Floyd. And he was the most... the last Pink Floyd album he did was The Final Cut. And the last song is about a nuclear holocaust. I mean, that was pretty much where he saw the world going.
Yikes.
But 4 years later, he watched Live Aid on TV, which was like, it was all these performers and they're going to donate the money and all that.
Yeah.
And so he wrote a song called The Tide is Turning, thinking that, maybe technology can be turned to some good. And in a way, 30 years after he wrote that song, that is exactly what's going on with DonorSee, and it's tremendous. So I want to urge people to check it out. I mean, you can get it directly onto your devices. You can go to DonorSee.com, DonorSee.com, and get cracking from there. But really, really, I want you to consider my challenge. I don't really go on the air and say, give money. What I do say is, I contribute to such and such cause, and I recommend it to you. In this case, I'm saying give money, especially those of you who are of means and have been waiting for something worthwhile to give it to. I would say wefunder.com/DonorSee is an excellent, excellent option.
Right, and I'll throw in. I'll also include that not only are they supporting DonorSee and the cause behind it, but they're actually their $1,000 that they'll be matching you with is an actual equity stake in the DonorSee company, and you can read about the valuation and so forth at wefunder.com/DonorSee. But they're actually going to be owning a piece of DonorSee by investing that. So
right, so it's not a strict donation in the strict sense. That's right, but I think with most of us. I'm not making the donation for that reason. I mean, I'm not sending in the money for that reason. But that is good to know for clarification purposes. Well, anyway, Gret, best of luck. And those of you listening also who have podcasts, please consider Gret as a guest. He would love to come on and talk about DonorSee. Maybe I don't want to necessarily give your email address out, but you could contact Gret via Twitter, right? Just send a tweet over your way.
Right, and people can contact admin@DonorSee.com, and that's a great way to
put me on your podcast. That's the way to do it. Yeah. Maybe that's the way to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thanks again, Gret. Best of luck.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
All right, everybody. Before we go, I want to tell you a couple things that are coming up next week. I got Jeff Deist coming back on the show for the epic episode of all time. That's coming up on Monday, the epic episode of all time. Then Tuesday, we're going to talk about Baby Alfie. And I realize that I'm way late on this, and that's completely my fault. There are some mitigating factors here, but I was late on it. But better late than never with a topic like that. And we'll definitely get to the bottom of what happened there and what the problems were. All right, what else do I want to say before we go? Definitely get the DonorSee app. You'd be crazy not to. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You're going to love having it. I want to tell you about another wonderful thing happening in the world. yet another website created by a Tom Woods Show listener. Now think about this. Think about how often I'm telling you about new websites created by my listeners. Now, it's probably like one website for every 250 listeners, right? And there's a website every day, practically. So that's great. I couldn't be happier about it. This one is thegoldstandardpodcast.com. And it's Alan Mosley's podcast. It talks current events, history, and even a little pop culture and philosophy from a libertarian perspective, of course. Alan's professional life has ranged from small business ownership to radio talk show host, while also having served as vice president of a nonprofit and even stints as a jazz musician. Hailing from the great state of Tennessee, Alan can be found delivering political and economic commentary weekly while playing host to some of the greatest minds of the liberty movement. You can message Alan directly with your questions or comments via email to alan@thegoldstandardpodcast.com. So check out thegoldstandardpodcast.com, and you get the whole list of episodes at thegoldstandardpodcast.com/episodes. And you will no doubt recognize some fine, fine folks who have appeared on the Tom Woods Show as well. So you're going to have a lot of fun checking out thegoldstandardpodcast.com. Get your shout out from me. I like to promote you folks out there who are doing something, starting a podcast or starting a blog or whatever. I want to help you do it. And all you got to do is get your hosting through my link, which gets you the best deal around anyway. So it's a win-win for everybody. Plus, I'll help you out. I'll get you in my bloggers group where we can help you if you have any problems. All kinds of things that I give to you for free to help make your transition into this online world all the smoother. Get the details on all those great bonuses at tomwoods.com/publicity, and I'll see you guys next week.
Become a smarter libertarian in just 30 minutes a day. Visit tomwoods.com to subscribe to the show for free, and we'll see you next time.